What's going on, guys? It's Caleb, and today I have a Ford F-150 LARIAT in for a complete detail for you guys to see. It's also in for a 2-stage paint correction as well as a paint sealant and then a carnauba wax on top. I'm going to go through everything that I do in this detail a little in depth. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. So as with every detail, I start with the wheels first, mostly because these are usually the most dirtiest things on the vehicle, and if you wash your car first and then do your wheels, you really have a high chance of getting more dirt actually on that clean surface. You don't want to do that. And in this situation, these wheels probably haven't been given any attention in the last few years. If you look closely too, the pressure washer is really helping big time to get that first layer of dirt out of there before any chemicals are sprayed on it. And honestly, if I didn't have this pressure washer, I don't think these wheels could have really been done as good as they were. So as we get into the actual cleaning stage of the wheels, let me go over real quick what my plan of attack is. What you just saw me put on the wheels is CarPro's Iron X. It's meant to decontaminate the wheels of any iron particles or anything of the sort from brake dust or the road. And then this pink liquid here you're seeing is P&S Brake Buster. This is a really good chemical for eating away any kind of stuff that's on your wheels. And if you see here, I'm using my deep barrel brush and these wheels are dirty. It's bad. Look at the brush. I mean, it's really bad. But after 2 or 3 times going around with the brush, the face of it, everything, the wheels ended up being immaculate. Now here's a really nice up-close shot of how much dirt was actually in these wheels. Just look at this. It's so satisfying. Now, give or take, these wheels took an accumulated hour and a half to get all 4 done. I'm a very OCD person, so whenever they're not clean, I want them perfect. So I definitely give it my all to make sure they were clean, and as you saw in the before and after, they definitely were clean. And I use the same products for the wheels as I do right here on the exhaust tip, and then we move on to the truck bed. Now this is the pre-wash stage. I take my foam cannon and I snow foam the whole vehicle, and I try to get it in every single place possible because this stage is really important for breaking up the dirt that's on the surface, so that way when I take my pressure washer and then I also hand wash, there's not as much dirt living on the surface. In this situation, I used Chemical Guy's Honeydew Snow Foam. It's a really good tried and true snow foam. It has high lubricity and it helps to not mar or scratch the paint in any way, shape, or form. But it would change depending on what kind of vehicle I had. If I knew there was a coating on a vehicle, I would use more of a stripping agent. But in this case, this vehicle had no coating on it whatsoever, so we just needed a nice snow foam. Once the foam has sat for a minute or two and it's really mingled with the dirt that's on the surface, I then take my soft bristled brush and I go into the parts that are really hard to get just to make sure I can get into every nook and cranny, and whatever dirt may be in there, it just gets lifted up and taken away. Rinsing everything off. This has to be one of my favorite parts, especially after doing a nice thick snow foam, because you get to see the truck and actually what condition the paint is in. The lighting kind of sucks in this part, but it gets better as time carries on. Just wait, just wait. Now for those who focus on cleaning the actual door sills, which you should in every detail when it comes to the exterior, just take your pressure washer, angle it the right way, and you're able to get it without having to worry about getting any water in the cab other than a few little sprinkles. The hand washing stage is actually a really important part of washing your car because it involves many different factors that you have to think about. The kind of wash mitt you're using. Is it a mitt? Are you using a rag? What are you actually using? Is it microfiber? Is it synthetic fiber? In this case, I'm using a synthetic mitt. I just like the way it feels more. But you also have to think about dunking your mitt into the rinse bucket, because you should be using a 2-bucket method as I am here. There is a wash bucket that's going to have your soap and water, and a rinse bucket to put that dirty stuff that was taken off of your paint into a bucket to make sure there's no dirt when you go into that nice clean bucket of soap. You also want to have a really high quality soap. In my case, I'm using Adam's car shampoo. It's very high in lubricity, and lubricity is really the key factor to having good hand washing, because if you don't have enough of it, you're going to be scratching and marring your paint. Which also leads me to how you wash your car. When you're washing it by hand, you do not want to use circular motions of any kind, because that's going to potentially give you swirls, extra marring, scratches in your paint and such. You want to wash it in straight lines with your hand, whether it be left to right or so be it. You also want to work from the top down. That's why you're seeing me start with the roof of the car, move to the sides of it, then go to the lower portion. Now the lower portion of the car is the dirtiest because that's where it's exposed to most contaminants. So just know, there's a lot to the hand washing stage, and if you have a really good method of washing your car by hand, then you're setting yourself up for a great future with your paint. The product you see here is Adam's Iron Remover. It's kind of the same thing we used on the wheels, except it's a different company. We're moving into the decontamination stage, starting with the actual chemical decontamination. We're going to spray this along the whole surface of the vehicle, give it a couple minutes to really simmer. It's going to eat away at the iron particulates and bleed purple on the paint. We're then going to pressure wash that off, and then we're going to move into the mechanical decontamination stage. You're going to see me pull out this big round circle red thing, and it's Griot's Garage's clay media pad. And then the big blue bottle is going to be clay lubricant, and I'm going to go ahead and clay bar the whole vehicle to remove any contaminants that may be left on the surface. This vehicle has not been decontaminated as far as I am aware, so there is a lot of contaminants we have to focus on getting off of the surface before we move into paint correction. The nice part about using this clay lubricant also is that it can act as a drying aid to the car, so whenever you are drying off your car with a microfiber towel, that is the perfect opportunity to start scratching and marring your paint. You really don't want to do that. You always want to have some sort of drying aid to add lubricity to the actual wiping process, so this helps out a lot too with drying the car. Usually you don't want to set a bottle right on the hood of a vehicle, but in this case it shows the decontamination process right there in front of you. So when you have the bottle on the hood, it's not moving anywhere at first, but then I decontaminate the surface. As you can see here, you start to see the bottle slowly start to slide off the hood. That's because it's so slick now and super fine. Now that we've washed the vehicle and decontaminated it, we're going to move on to the masking portion of it prior to doing paint correction, because we do not want anything to get on the trim of this vehicle, so we're taking masking tape and masking it off completely. Now I will say, I thought this truck was going to fit in my garage, and it most definitely did not. So in this situation here, we're trying to pay attention to everything that's going on around me and keeping full control, as I said earlier, watching the temperature, the sun, the wind, everything involved, because now I am out in the elements trying to get everything prepped for a paint correction. It ended up working out great, but it was such a stressful process. So, day 2, paint correction. Let me explain to you what happened last night. So it was very interesting. My method did not work for a one-step. So I went ahead and pulled out the McGuire's DA cutting compound and polish microfiber pads, and boom, went to town. So I was here till about 11 o'clock last night doing it, and looking at the results now, it looks great. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I still have the passenger door to do and the hood. So I'm going to go ahead and put some isopropyl alcohol wash on just to get all whatever's off from the elements and get to going. Yes, I am looking at myself in the camera. That's why I'm not looking straight ahead. I'm not used to this. So as you just heard, yes, I did say one step in there. This was supposed to be a one-stage paint correction to get rid of the oxidation, light scratching, marring, swirls, and all of that. But since my one-step process did not work, I went ahead and just did a 2-stage compound, polish, and it actually ended up looking absolutely beautiful. Now that the compounding, polishing, and IPA wipe down is completely done, I'm going to spray on the paint sealant and then put on the layer of Colonite 845 insulator wax. After about 10 minutes or so, I go ahead and buff it off to a perfect finish. And then I also take my focus down to the side steps on the truck. I go ahead and take some Mother's aluminum and mag polish, and I polish every single piece of chrome from the side steps to the grill. Everything that had shiny bits to it, it got polished. And then to top it all off, I put a spray paint sealant on there as a topper, and it's P&S bead maker. This stuff is just bliss. It's the perfect finishing touch to any job. The only other thing that you didn't see here was me doing a final cleaning of the windows. Other than that, this is a wrap.